Okay, my friends, it's Earth Day today, 2020, April 22nd. I have a very good friend who was an outside contractor with the European Space Agency and NASA and sends me things all the time. Thank you, Pedro. I look at them all, my friend, and they're always little nice short things, and they're very, very informative, as is this. Now, let's listen to this. This is Stephen Hawking speaking about where we live and what we should do about where we live and how we should think about where we live and what, in my mind, is not being done at the current moment. So let's hear what Stephen Hawking has to say.
I am very aware of the preciousness of time. Seize the moment.
Seize the moment.
Act now.
Act now.
I have spent my life traveling across the universe inside my mind.
So have I.
Through theoretical physics, I have sought to answer some of the great questions. But there are other challenges, other big questions which must be answered, and these will also need a new generation who are interested, engaged, and with an understanding of science.
My friends.
How will we feed an ever-growing population, provide clean water, generate renewable energy, prevent and cure disease, and slow down global climate change?
A lot of problems.
I hope that science and technology will provide the answers to these questions, but it will take people, human beings with knowledge and understanding, to implement these solutions.
Open minds.
One of the great revelations of the space age has been the perspective it has given humanity on ourselves. When we see the Earth from space, we see ourselves as a whole. We see the unity and not the divisions. It is such a simple image. With a compelling message, one planet, one human race.
One truth.
We are here together, and we need to live together with tolerance and respect. We must become global citizens. I have been enormously privileged, through my work, to be able to contribute to our understanding of the universe. But it would be an empty universe indeed, if it were not for the people I love, and who love me. We are all time travelers, journeying together into the future. But let us work together to make that future a place we want to visit. Be brave, be determined, overcome the odds. It can be done.
Moving words. Alright, you all know I have issues with the way the mainstream refuses to address things that appear to have quite a lot of validity, and some things that are undeniable. So, I'd like to see them seen. Okay, my extremely gifted and talented and intelligent friends and associates, this is a trip back of memory lane for me. Now, this is Earth Day, this is 1968. I think it started in 70. I don't know why they started in 68. But 68 was the year I went into the Army, February 1968. So I'm going to start with my memory lane here, and then I'm going to explain to you what they still don't understand. All right, so here we go. We're going to be talking about Earth Day. What is Earth Day? See, a lot of people have no clue about this. You know, this is 50 years ago. And you know, I've been following it because Earth Day is, let's pay attention to the Earth. Well, it didn't happen out the way they had hoped. So let's just watch this. And I'm going to show you things about the Earth that they are going to show that this was just fabulous. When I first watched this, I said, oh, this is, I have to do a video about this. Here goes.
As far as the subsolar point on the south side to the floor of it, here leaving, there is one dark hole. Oh, God, look at that picture over there. Here's the Earth coming up. Wow, that's pretty.
Okay, 1970, Earth observing. We're checking out the weather and the atmosphere. We're looking at the ozone hole. All right, and we're looking at how methane accumulates around the Earth. And then the land cell. What's going on? How are we heating up the Earth? Mount St. Helens, and eruptions, and everything about the Earth's surface. Let me turn this down a little bit. Solar radiation. We're looking at everything. Precipitation. How is it raining? Look at the way the clouds run. Why are they spinning like that? Why are those towering structures? Look at the way what is going on with the way the atmosphere flows? And how does ice form? Why is it only on the poles? And look at all this variation. The sea ice changes, it drifts, it goes this way, it goes that way. Ice sheets are changing. Well, what's going on? Ocean's heating up. The surface of the land is heating up. The sea levels are doing this and that. The temperatures of the seas are increasing and changing. Now, let's look at this, because this is the surface of our planet's atmosphere. It's not the dirt, it's the atmosphere. Now, let's look at it and think about this a little bit, about the Gulf Stream cascading through there, making all these swirls all over our Earth. Well, let me tell you something. I can tell you exactly why that is happening, which they just don't understand in our expert realm. This Earth, you see right here? You see that little spot right there? That is our magnetosphere, our ionosphere. It is a ring around our entire globe that is saturated with electrons, and from here out here it is still saturated with electrons, because those are the emissions of stars and all other luminous bodies in the universe. They cascade everywhere. There is no spot in the universe that has no particles. These are electrons. These are light particles. They will smash into our Earth and illuminate it. Now, why are all these little squiggles? Well, these are electrons, and this is a ring of electrons. We are spinning our electrons against those electrons. It's push to push. It is exactly identical, 100%, no difference whatsoever, completely, totally the same as a generator. This is the armature in the center of the generator that has its electrons flowing in these fields, and it's pushing its electrons against magnets, which are loaded with electrons. It goes, and that forces electrons to flow through the circuit from the South Pole to the North Pole. Our electrons are being forced into the Earth from everywhere. That's called gravity. That's the reason gravity happens. It's a magnetic attraction of everything to the Earth. The more dense the electrons are, which means the heavier the item is. So the less dense, like hydrogen, it hasn't got enough electrons in it to even be pulled to Earth. It goes up. We are a generator. Our pole is the south, it runs up to the north. Everything gets pulled in magnetically, flows around, and creates our field around it so that the incoming electrons are captured, basically. Very, very much less interaction at the surface than there is out here. It's thousands of degrees out here where we're scrubbing. And that's what's creating all these fields. And the same thing is happening on the sun to a larger degree. Instead of just being circles, they're bloop of flaps of magnetic particles, solar flares. The sun has the exact same stuff. And out here, its corona is millions of degrees. Its surface is only 6,000. There's no possible way, zero, that the heat is coming from a fusion source inside here, and it stops here at 6,000 and then turns back on to millions out here. It's the scrubbing, exactly like us. We're thousands, we're 80 or 90 degrees here. They are millions, they are 6,000 here. It's just a bigger glob pushing through the atmosphere. Now, if we're really going to be serious about Earth Day, we've got to be serious about looking at what is on the Earth. And if they're looking from space and they don't see the dragon and the fish, I mean, they just don't, they don't see anything they don't want to see. That is the key. I probably shouldn't have mentioned the dragon and the fish, but since I did, they're in North Africa. You can see them. I mean, there's nobody can miss these. There's the fish, and there's the dragon. All right, and there's the dragon's throat, his head, and all that stuff got spit out, which is dragon, whatever they spit, and they landed on the fish and burnt up his back, his fin. Now, and this is all dragon scales. I mean, nobody can deny this. This is just not deniable. It's exactly what they show the dragons as, identical. There's no difference whatsoever. And this is the bleed off of a decaying dragon, an effluent of the dragon. And here it goes, run all the way down here, all the way out in the back. That's the fluty end of the tail way over here, but you can see the scales and so forth bleeding off right here. This is not silly. It's not a joke. It's our ancient history. It's the truth. And just like everything else is totally disregarded when it doesn't fit into what they want to see. Now, just like this here, we're talking about the Earth making its electric current based on scrubbing through the particles that are in space that they won't acknowledge. Now, hold on a second. All right, we're going to take a look at the solar system in a minute and how we rub through the universe, because we are in the arm of the galaxy Milky Way, and that is scrubbing through the universe, because the universe is filled with particles. There's a tiny, tiny little space of atmosphere just above the Earth's surface. It's very, very tiny compared to outer space. However, this is filled with the particles, as I said, and they are also, they're electrons. That's all they are. Now, electron to electron, it's push. It's the same thing as you rub an electron to electron on your hands. Now, this is a huge surface area, and it's doing a lot of scrubbing. You don't have hardly any scrubbing up here or hardly any scrubbing at the bottom, because there's just not, they're just moving a very small amount. This is moving 25,000 miles in one day, that spot, and every other spot on the equator. This is moving a couple thousand, 1,000 miles a day. So it's scrubbing the effect of 1,000 miles. This is scrubbing the effect of 25,000 miles. That's why this is freezing cold up in the poles, and it's very overheated here. It's just a scrub. Now, the other issue is that the scrub creates this flow of electrons. It's a right-hand rule. The flow goes straight up through the poles, and that's what's pulling everything into the Earth. And additionally, all the electrons that are out here are accumulating in the Earth. They're not, every one of them, leaving. Some of them leave, absolutely. But a lot of them are being absorbed. The Earth's entireness is absorbing electrons. The water, the buildings, the cars, the dirt, the rocks, 100% is increasing in heat. And I don't see any way of relieving that. You know, we are additionally adding a lot of heat because every time we burn something, we are moving electrons out of their crushedness, and they become open, and then they create pressure. That's what it is. And the more electrons you push into something, the hotter it gets. Obviously, that's what heating up a pan of water is. That's all it is. We got to look at things a little differently. You know, if they think there's no electrons out here, that's insanity. That's where the dark matter and the dark energy is. It's just sitting out there as particles, waiting to interact with other particles. They're out there. They're just sitting around. We don't see them. They're dark. But they're their matter, their energy. And obviously their energy, as soon as they hit the Earth, they warm things up. They create electricity if they hit a solar panel. They warm your face up if they hit you. They burn your face if they hit you enough. They're obviously particles, and I've shown them over and over and over in so many ways. All right, before I said there was an armature. There's the armature right there. This is what's inside of electric motors and electric generators. You see AC armature of a miniature motor or generator. What it does, that spins, and that has a field inside of it, and that field opposes the magnets. These magnets like this surround that thing, and as it's spinning, it fights those magnets, and then it forces electricity to come out the commutator at the bottom. So you have a plus and a minus. Now, normally you'd have a plus on one end and a minus on the other. If this itself was its own organism, which is just like the Earth. The Earth spins, you can have a plus on one end and a minus on the other. South pole's a minus, the North pole's a plus. And the electricity just flows right out and around and back and around. See, this goes out through these two. Well, I have a motor right here, which is a generator. I'm going to use it as a generator. Here. Right, you see, we've got 0 volts right now. This is one of these little motors, and that has the magnets around the sides. And it had one of those armatures. It has one of these armatures right in the middle. Now, when I spin this, normally you're going to put electricity in here. And it's going to go bzzz, it's going to drive something. Well, if I drive it myself, the electricity comes out. It's just exactly the opposite. If you push it in, it drives. If you drive it yourself, it pushes it out. So watch over here. And I'm going to go one direction, you'll see a minus come up, and the other direction you'll see no minus. See a minus come up? And a little bit of electricity. The faster I can spin it, the higher it comes up. But that's all negative because I'm spinning it this direction. Now if I spin it this direction, it'll come positive. See? There's no minus comes up. And it's harder to spin this way. This way here, it spins and you get a lot stronger, of course. Anyway, that's the way motors and generators work. And the Earth is a generator. And what is happening now for our magnetic field is the magnetism that flows out through the poles, and gravity is the suction of electrons into the Earth. That's all gravity is, suction of electrons. And the more electrons in a closer, denser space, the harder it hits the Earth. That's why lead, all of these things, lead and gold and all those things, they're not magnetic. They just have a ton of extra electrons. And they get pulled to Earth because everything that has electrons gets pulled to Earth. That's the story. All right, this is just a little teaser about light. That is a red pulse laser. That is accelerated red pulse laser showing the particle through a venturi, creating the interference patterns in a single slit, not a double slit, so that's totally wrong. This creates the Higgs fields from the bosons after the Cherenkov radiation. This is a new particle unknown to anyone, created from what could possibly be an antiparticle reverse spin or concussing with a normal particle. This appears to be photons, back-to-back electrons, of which there is a positive and a negative, and only the negative, the white part is concussive and explosive, and the black part is not. This shows light spinning to the right, drifting to the left, compressing as it slows down. It speeds up, as we have just seen. Whoops. And it slows down, as we have just seen. Now, whoops. You know, I said whoops, but I'm going to go back. I didn't mean to do this, but I've been researching the COVID-19, top to bottom, inside out, everything, autopsies and all that. They've done a couple of autopsies, and they found that it exudes some noxious, sticky, gooey stuff out of the lungs. And I have come to the conclusion that the flexible elasticity that's in the lungs is a surfactant. Pretty much, I'm pretty sure is what's being attacked. Anyway, what can you do to protect yourself? I want to know if you are taking probiotics, you know, on a regular basis, and you have no gut issues, and if you're taking kefir and those kind of things that are very, very healthy for your body, because that's where your immune system is. And they're talking about it right here now, probiotics, which they say, yes, absolutely, take them. That's about the only thing you can do right now. But I want to know, is anybody getting, and what is, well, here's what I sent. Whoops, right here. I need your help. The most all diseases relate to underlying gut health, exactly as Hippocrates claimed. Even now, it's understood that the immune system is tied to the gut. I need reports from everyone who takes probiotics, and also kefir. I want to know anyone, if it tested positive, yes or no, and exactly how serious it was, how you contracted it, your physical, your mental, your emotional, everything about it, and how it progressed, temperatures, and you know how it receded, and everything. Kind of important. It's very important, so that we can understand what's going on. Nobody's got anything for this. And it's and then I go on to show about how it's just as though it's only recently been observed that an alteration of the physiological homeostasis of intestinal microbiota, which is your gut bacteria, also known as dysbiosis, is correlated with some diseases, every disease. Dysbiosis associated with a loss of species diversity were correlated with very diverse diseases. Yes, every disease, from antibiotic-associated diarrhea to type 2 diabetes. It's every disease, or common infectious diseases, among others. Probiotic bacteria can interact with our gut bacteria, our gut microbiome, and reinforce our immune system. Absolutely. And it just goes on about, and then it talks about. It's what the problem is with our whole society, I think. Anyway, I didn't mean to go into that, but I think that's important. All right, so we got Earth Day 50 years ago. And basically, I was literally just getting out of the Army. I got out of the Army in February 1970. And I started to look around for reality, because I had nothing going for me at that point. And I started looking hard. So this will be the next video that shows what light is really about and how we are concussing through the universe. And I could show you exactly how it happens. And I could show you that light can literally be separated. I will show you that, and then I will leave it at that. All right, I mean, I know I'm all over the place with this kind of stuff. It's just the way I do things. But I just got another thing from my buddy Carl, which I will cut in after this. But I told you I could show you light separated. I showed you the particles, the white and the black particles, coming through the air. And they can be separated. And here is the white, and the black ones are right around it. You see this here? Those are the little black particles. You can see them. And this is the interference patterns that they're supposed to flap. This is a single slit. This isn't a double split. And that is where you have your different spots. It doesn't have to have a flap here and a flap here. It's a single slit. Now, and the black ones can touch each other. They don't care about being touching. They have no concussive push to anything. The white ones are the ones that do all the pushing, and they do all exploding, and they do all the energizing. All right, so I guess we'll leave it at that. All right, here's another thing. I'm just going to spew all this out at you because I get this every day. I have like 80,000 people in my university now, and they're all sending me things because this stuff is everywhere. 10 strange petrified bodies and body parts found in the United States. Look at this. It's only 40 years it took for this guy to petrify. How many petrified bodies and body parts have been uncovered in the United States? Apparently far more than the article can cover. Because there's been a zillion of them. Nobody will listen. I am getting so many people sending me things you just couldn't even imagine. Now, this notorious outlaw was on display. In 1895, this guy and his wife were walking along the river, and they found this petrified foot sticking out of a sandbar. And they dug it up, and they found it was the tedious process of uncovering the body. It was quite a find. The body had bullet wounds, rope marks on its neck. Because the couple thought it was a great find, they took the body home, and when they put it on display the next day, they charged people 25 cents to see the petrified corpse, and on the first day they got $400. This is back in 1895 or somewhere. 1895. Now, shortly afterwards, a name was put to the body. They figured out who it was. It was a notorious outlaw called Bill Johnson. The outlaw had been accused of killing over 30 men when a mob finally caught up with him, and he was shot in the breast, bowels, and thighs. Still, and this is the quote, still alive, the outlaw was then strung up and hung until he died. This was back in 1857. Now, so 1857, they found the body in 1895. It's only 40 years, and it turned to stone. And here's the nature has turned this man to stone. It says first photograph published of the interesting stone man unearthed the other day at Ferry, Iowa, by J.K. Olds, a reputable businessman. Dr. E.J. Miller, chief member of the committee of 5 physicians who were present when the body was exhumed and who afterwards subjected it to test to ascertain if it was another Cardiff giant, has written a signed statement for this paper. The Cardiff giant was another one. It was another one that was turned to stone. These things were all over, and they were, like, at the end of the 19th century, a lot of petrified feet were apparently sticking out of the ground in the United States in a situation similar to the previous petrified body found at, again, 1895. 2 men discovered a petrified foot sticking out of the sand in Arizona. You should see what Tish Egerton found. She found a whole village of them, and they are these things here. Hold on. I got the same thing, only hers are all eroded. She's in an area where there's a lot of water. Mine are, well, this is the only one I have more of them, actually. This is the one I have that's perfect, though. And these are no-toes. So there's so much to learn here. Denied, absolutely denied. Yale absolutely will not even discuss anything. They destroyed all this stuff, I'm sure. Probably, I don't know about Yale, but I've heard rumors of this and that. Everybody knows the rumors. And it goes on and on and on about all the things that they found. So this is not unusual. It is just refused.